Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the video. Today we're going to be looking at a Simic Aggro deck with the new Strixhaven cards, and I personally love green decks, and that's the reason I got into Magic. And green decks always had, or at least in recent times, they were missing some pieces to counter and play with the counter decks. So now with some new Strixhaven cards, we actually gain a lot of interactions on the board, and the main card for that is Decisive Denial, which is going to be replacing all our Primal Might, Ram Through, because it allows us to fight target creature, but it also allows us to counter target non-creature spell if we want to. Keep in mind that it's counter if the controller can't pay 3. If he can pay 3, then he's gonna pay it. So it's situational, but I find it still very useful and allows us to play out our aggro creatures. So let's go through the deck. We start with Gilded Goose. Allows us to ramp and then create some food tokens, play with our life total if we need. Then Elysian Caryatid, Scavenging Ooze, because rogues. And there's a lot of decks that play with our graveyard, so we can bounce that out a little bit. Decisive Denial, choose one target creature you control, fights target creature you don't control, or counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 3. We have a Kalni Ambush, which it's more fighting if we need, and if not, we play it as a land. We have our Love-Struck Beasts, which allows us to get the Henge on turn 4, and if we don't have Love-Struck Beasts, then we can play Cassandra Mammoth. If we play another land on turn 4, then we can also play the Great Henge, because this becomes a 5/5. And then we have Kasmina. So Kasmina is actually one of the unsung heroes of this deck. She has an ability which says each other planeswalker you control has the loyalty abilities of Kasmina, Enigma Sage, which in our deck allows Garuk to get a +2 ability, which means he gets to his -7 much faster if you have both of them out. And then Kasmina gets pretty big pretty quick, and then you can have a -X and create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token, put X +1/+1 counters on it. This works really well with Tanazir Quandrix, which we'll get to later, because this allows the fractal token to double its power and or double its number of counters. And the -8 is not really applicable for this deck, but it's search a library for an instant or sorcery spell that shares a color with this card, and you can play that card without casting its mana cost. Here we don't really have anything. Maybe Turn Timber Symbiosis, but I don't know if it's worth the -8 in this deck. I'm sure we can make a deck where it's super cool to play that, but in this deck we're going to be using its -X and +2 especially. Then we have one of my favorite cards, Garuk Unleashed. +1 is up to 1 target creature gets +3/+3 and trample. We can play him and then use his -2 to create a 3/3 green beast if we need to widen the board. And his -7 is game over. You get an Emblem with at the beginning of your end step. You may search your library for a creature card, put it onto the battlefield, and shuffle. So it doesn't go off much. It might go off more often with Kasmina on the board, but when it goes off, it's basically game over. Then we have Gnar Professor, a new Strixhaven card, which I really like, because it just allows us to grab some more cards from the sideboard and just keep steamrolling onto the battlefield. So he allows us to learn, and then the cards we can gain from learning are Environmental Sciences, which allows us to find the basic land, gain 2 life, Basic Conjuration, which is the one that we will go for the most often. I have 2 of them in here, and it's look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card and put it into your hand, and you gain 3 life. So 3 life is actually came up big in some of the games, but yeah, you find a creature card and then you just basically you're drawing a specific card of your choice. So it's pretty cool. And then we have some Destroy Artifact Enchantment and Fractal Summoning in case we have a lot of mana and we want to make another token. And then our Exile target non-permanent. This is really if there's something, if there's a, I don't know, a Ugin and we really need to get rid of it or nothing else, then this can help us. So then we have Questing Beast, which you guys all know it. It's such a good card. Vigilance, Death Touch, Haste. Questing Beast can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, so all those token cards just goes right over them. Can eliminate pretty much anything because of the Death Touch. It has haste, which is great, and then combat damage that would be dealt by creatures you control can't be prevented. That's so important, and that comes up so often and allows us to win a lot of games when he's on the board. Then we have 1 copy of Elder Gargaroth. Whenever he attacks or blocks, choose 1. Create a 3 green beast creature token, which allows us to widen the board if we need. Then we could gain 3 life, or we could draw a card. So just versatility, just allows us to do so many things. Just a great overall card. Vigilance, Reach, Ample allows us to block some flyers. Nothing more to say, just amazing card. And then Tanazir Quandrix. This is one of the new dragons in the Strixhaven set, and he's pretty cool. They're pretty very fun to play with. He allows us to double the number of +1/+1 counters on target creature we control, and whenever he attacks, you may have the base power and toughness of other creatures you control become equal to Tanazir Quandrix's power and toughness until end of turn. So if we have some Gilded Goose out, or some Elysian Caryatid, or some Scavenging Ooze with a bunch of counters, or even the token we created here, all of those on the board become 4/4s plus whatever counters they have on them. So if he attacks and we have a wide enough board, it's pretty much game over. The opponent's probably going to scoop. Then we have Vorinclex, Monstrous Raider, another great card. Trample, Haste, you love to see it. Doubles our counters, halves the counters of the opponent. Just a great card to have. Then Turntable Symbiosis, we look at the top 7 cards of our library. We could play a creature card from among them onto the battlefield if the card has mana value 3 or less, enters with 3 additional +1/+1 counters. So that's just most of the time we're going to use that as land if we get it later on in the game. Could help us, but yeah, we just have 1 in the deck. And then our engine, the Great Henge, we play this, we have good chance of winning. If we don't find this, it makes it a little bit more complicated for us. Land wise, we have Bond's Enclave, pretty important. At least have, I would say, 1 in your deck, 2 if you have. Just allows us to draw. We have a lot of power 4 creatures, so power 4 or more, so we can draw most of the time. Then we have some Thornwood Falls, gain some life. We have some Scrying. We have some more Scrying if we need. We have some Pathways. I only had 3, but you can use up to 4. I would say, like, you use just whatever you have. And then we have some regular forests and Castle Garenbrig. We're only using 2 because we have a lot of different lands and we don't necessarily have pure forests, so this is going to come in tabs, so therefore I decided only to go with 2, and it helps. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so game 1 we started off with a pretty good hand. We had some ramp, we had Kazmina. Felt pretty decent hand. So went for Bond's Enclave first. We don't want to show him what we have in hand. Then opponent plays Mountain, so we know he's got some probably some either aggro or he's trying to get some damage onto us. We play Lizzie Incarnated, hopefully to ramp. He hits with a Fire Prophecy, gets rid of our ramp. That's okay. Decide to play another land, and then hopefully play Kazandu Mammoth, and then hopefully turn after Great Henge. So we're playing a little bit slower, and then we realize that he's not necessarily playing a full red aggro, which was interesting. We were expecting a red aggro, not a red sorcery instant deck, but that's okay, no problem. And next turn we're hoping for a land, then Kazandu Mammoth becomes a 5/5, and then we can play Henge. That was the hope. If not, we have Kazmina, we have Gnarled Professor. But that's beautiful. We get our land. We get a blue because we didn't even have a blue. Play the blue land. Kazandu Mammoth goes to 5/5. And then we have some options, but Henge was probably the right choice. And then from that we decide to put Kazmina as well. Now we got a very nice developed board. We go for the +2, and I think here the opponent makes a mistake, or maybe not. And now, yeah, so now we have the Scrying, we have a 5/5 attacker, we have Henge down, we have Kazmina down, we have a very nice board state. Opponent has opponent makes a really nice play here actually, and this is where we see what he's actually playing. He plays the Iron Crag Feat, which gives him 14 mana because he copied the spell, copied it twice, and then he gives us, he shoots a Crackle with Power, which basically gets rid of the whole board and puts us down to 2 life, which it was pretty insane. We go ahead and play our Gnarled Professor. We get to look at the sideboard, choose what exactly we think would be useful. We go with basic Conjuration because not only does it let us search the first 6 cards of our library, but it also gives us 3 life, which we really needed in this situation because he can hit us with just a bunch of stuff if he's playing a red burn deck. We're looking in our graveyard just to see how many creatures we could potentially eat with Ooze. Ooze was the choice here because not only can we eat our graveyard and put counters on Ooze, we can also gain life, and then the counters double when we put the Tanazir Quandrix on. Opponent plays another Crackle with Power, but wasn't able to double it this time, and that's where it was essential that we gained life that previous turn. The 3 life from the lesson card we grabbed. Ooze is able to gain us more life now, and we just have options upon options now. We get our Decisive Denial, so we can potentially counter another big spell the opponent casts. We decide to go with Garruk, and we're trying to finish him off as soon as possible. So now next turn, if he doesn't play anything on the board, we potentially can win it. We led this one through. This is not a big spell that we need to counter. Waiting to see what he's gonna do. And we read this. This is also not something that can kill us this turn, so we don't necessarily need to use Decisive Denial on Flamethrower or Sonata. We take our chances, I think, with this one. We hope for the best, we hope he doesn't get anything, knowing that we can also eat with Ooze. So we eat one, keep the counterspell open just in case. Opponent says good game and scoops it up. Yeah, so first game, first win, very nice win. Very interesting deck from the opponent. It wasn't a mono red aggro, it was a mono red burn. And he could have got us a couple times, but luckily we had our life gain cards and were able to get past that initial huge red spell that hit us for, I think, something like 30 damage around the board, something like that. So game 2, we start with Gilded Goose, nice little ramp. We have our Decisive Denial, we have our Gnarl Professor, which allows us to grab from the side. So we're looking pretty good so far. Opponent's playing probably an enchantment deck with Ephemia, Serrated Scorpion, probably going to bring in a Lurrus later. We decide to go for a little bit more ramp. Next turn we can bring on Gnarl Professor because we have Gilded Goose and Delusion targeted, hoping that opponent doesn't get rid of one of our creatures. Attacks for 2. We can block the Serrated Scorpion with the Goose. Get another Goose, but here we probably want to go with Professor, get a big blocker on the board, grab from the sideboard as well. We decide that's the move, and what do we grab here? Might grab Environmental Sciences, that we can grab some land because we're not sure if we want land. We can grab or just basic Conjuration. Okay, so we went for Environmental Sciences just to make sure we get that extra land drop because we want to make our way to Vorinclex. Lurrus comes on, then we're happy we didn't use Decisive Denial yet. We can use that to deal with Lurrus. Ephemia attacks again, we don't have any reach on the board at the moment. We get our land, so we're pretty happy. Elysian Caryatid now gives us 2 extra mana of any choice because we have a power 4 or greater on the board. We get rid of the Lurrus, which is basically his engine for his deck. So with that out of the way, now we can focus on our own stuff. We decide to go Goose. We have some life gain, we have another blocker for any potential flying creatures. We go Environmental Sciences as well, we gain some life, get a land, and next turn we can bring in Vorinclex. We make a very silly move with Gnarl Professor. We forget that he was down to 1 toughness and we go in an attack. Kinda silly. We'll see if it hurts us in the endgame. So Ooze, now we can think about starting to put Ooze into play because now we have a lot of creatures in the graveyard. Ooze can start eating, start gaining life. Opponent doesn't have too much in hand, so it might be a good time to think about bringing Ooze. Whenever, now that Vorinclex is on as well, Ooze is going to double counters. So he's going to grow double as fast. Vorinclex on, if he blocks, he can block with everything. But he doesn't choose to do so. We get in for some damage, and then next turn we're hoping to bring Ooze on. He plays Mire's Grasp. We're hoping he doesn't have a second Mire's Grasp. And it doesn't look like he does, which means we're in a great position to play our Ooze next turn. Ooze is just going to get huge, and then there's nothing really you can do about it, because enchantment decks don't seem to be running pure destroy cards. They usually like to run the enchantment cards that only do -1 or -3 or -4. So we tap cast on Garenbrig, get some extra mana. We decide to just go nuts, eliminate the whole graveyard. Nothing for Lurrus to eat. Nothing for anything else to eat. We have one left over. We decide to just eat a sorcery just in case. Instant sorcery. Just in case, you never know, why not? Then we decide to attack with nothing. Or with Vorinclex. I don't believe so. I think we... No attacks, we don't need to attack. Next turn, Ooze can go in for a big amount. And we're waiting to see if we can get anything. Any cards like a Henge, any engine cards, any draw cards. Let's see what we could do. If we get another decisive denial, we can maybe fight a creature, then start attacking. He plays a Demon's Wings, whatever that card is, which is good for him. He can go over the top. We still don't have a reach. He gains 4 life a turn if he attacks. He doesn't decide to attack, which is interesting. And this is where the gooses are nice, because the geese are nice because when you have nothing to do, you just create those food tokens and get some life. Here, Bond's Enclave allows us to draw another card. Now we have some options. We can scry, we can play another goose, or we can just chill and create some more food tokens. We have a lot of mana available to us now. We have the Caryatid, who's tapped for 2 mana. We have the geese. And we have just abundance of lands. Scorpion blocks, lose 2 life, he gains 2. Decide to play another goose. And we eat a scorpion. Just to make sure Lurrus has nothing when he comes on. He gets another land, he's going to draw with Castle Lochwin. Doesn't have much to do now. It's slowly going to be a game over for him. We're going to it looks like we're going to slowly, should be able to close this game out. Especially with the life gain. He doesn't have any big creatures yet. He needed his Lurrus. When we got rid of the Lurrus, that basically means game over for him. Questing Beast comes on. We can trade. We don't mind trading the Questing Beast now if he wants to block with the 1/4/3. That's an okay trade, because then we can eat his 2 creatures, eat the Demonic Embrace. He's debating now whether he wants to block or not. And then he's left with 1 creature on the board. See, this is where we're also open for Tanazir. Tanazir would be really nice because all of our creatures would be base 4 for when we're attacking. So all our goose are not 0/2s, they become 4/4s. Our Caryatid is 4/4 as well. Ooze gets an additional +2 because he's a 2/2 start, so that changes to 4/4, it becomes a 16/16. Plays Rankle. Gonna get some live gain from that. Or not, he might just decide not to attack, keep him as a blocker. We go for another Bonder's Enclave, draw one. Why not? Get a Kazandu, another creature card, and there's a Decisive Denial, and that's basically going to win us the game now, because now we can use it to fight Rankle, eat whatever we need to eat, and win from there. And the opponent's going to scoop it. He probably didn't have much in his hand. Knew that we're just going to eat whatever he plays, whatever goes in the graveyard. And on to game 3. We're 2-0 right now. Or we were 2-0. It was a nice day of Magic. Some beautiful draws, as you can see. We have potentially a Lovestruck Beast moving into Great Henge with a Decisive Denial in case he wants to get rid of something. So here we start with Time of Mystery, because we can play the token for Lovestruck Beast on turn 2, allows us to scry for turn 1, maybe get something a little bit better, and that's exactly what we get. We get a Elysian Caryatid, which we can ramp up. It's also a target for them to remove and waste one of their destruction spells or something like that, instead of using it on something like Lovestruck Beast. And here, opponent was playing a pretty interesting deck. He played a white-blue, and we're really sure what he was playing at this point. We go for Lovestruck Beast, no token. We have our 1/1 in Elysian Caryatid. Next turn, if he doesn't get rid of Lovestruck, we can play the Henge, which is great for us. And then we might even be able to play Turn Timber Symbiosis as a sorcery and go fetch something in the deck. Opponent plays Basriket, going to +1, probably the Merfolk Windrobber, attack for 2. But little does he know we have a Decisive Denial in our hand, and we can get rid of Basri next turn, if we decide to do so. So we play Henge down, and then we can play Decisive Denial to get rid of the Selfish Savior, which is a good target for it as well. It doesn't give him lose the indestructible on later on in the game, unless he plays another one. And then we could go in for 5 and get rid of our friend Basriket. So this is where I was saying is just such a nice card to have. You have the counter on one side or the fight target creature on the other. So you can decide which you need to use depending on the matchup. You can save it, and it's not just a ghost card, a dead card in your hand, which is never going to be used. So here we could play Trendemper Symbiosis, we could play Ooze. Ooze doesn't really... Do we have many creatures? Oh, we have a couple of creatures because he's milling us. So we play Ooze on the basis of that, knowing that he might be milling us for some more. But opponent seems to be playing a party deck, a white-blue party deck. But our deck is looking pretty good as well. Now we have Henge down, we're in a great situation. We can play the token for Lovestruck Beast, and then next time we bring on a second Lovestruck Beast and we can attack for a good amount. Opponent will not block here because he only has a 3/3. Plays a Temple. Attacks for 5, that's no problem. Mills some more, another card we might be able to eat with Ooze. Now we can play Turn Timber Symbiosis, fetch for another card in the deck. And Turn Timber Symbiosis is nice because you can basically play any card from your deck, or you can play a card with mana cost 3 or less, and if it's 3 or less, you get 3+1/+1 counters on it. We decided to go Gnar Professor just because we love that card. It allows us to grab an additional card from the sideboard, another lesson card. And here we're probably going to go with a basic Conjuration. It's going to allow us to look in the deck and or not, we go for that token. I think at this point we knew we were in a good position. We just wanted to create a huge fractal token. Yeah, we're in a great board state right now, and opponent probably is going to see that and scoop sooner or later. We were hoping at this point that it doesn't have any destroy all creatures. That would be unfortunate, but even at that, we have the hands down, and it would be hard to come back from this one for the opponent. Play Seasoned Hollowblade. Could be good for him, but that means he needs to discard a card every turn if he wants to keep him on the board. Opponent needs one more creature as well to create a whole party. He's missing a wizard, I believe, or sorry, a cleric. He's missing. He has a wizard, a rogue, and a warrior. And we get Elder Gargoth, and that's pretty much game because we have our reach creature now. So even if he attacks, we start either gaining life, drawing cards, going wider. And we get Tanazir Quandrix, and opponent just scoops. But it's too bad because we had the Quandrix in our hand, Tanazir, and could have started putting counters, double the counters, everyone attacks as a 4/4. Loads of good stuff. Unfortunately, I think the opponent must have seen through our cards and seen that we got Tanazir because did not want to stick around for that. So on to our fourth game of the day. Played Zagumus, and again another really nice hand. We get some turn 1 ramp, and it seems like today we were playing basically every game we were playing. We were getting first turn, which we don't complain, and then we get another goose, which we can either play that, ramp into Questing Beast next turn, or we can play Kazanto Mammoth. We decide to go with another goose, just in case opponent has some removal. We let him know that we're here. We attack with our 0/2 goose, just to let him know, listen buddy, we're here and we're ready to dance. Another Questing Beast. We have a very nice hand now. We decide to go probably Garuk, put the +1 on one of the gooses, attack for 3, and if the opponent decides to attack for 1, that's no problem. So Pest deck is actually a super fun deck that I've created a deck of it. It's so much fun to play. Golgari Pests. I'll probably put out a video today, tomorrow, and it's just such a fun deck that came out with Strixhaven, and it's pretty powerful as well. But I think the opponent here, will see if he uses it well, but you need to, there's a lot of cards that you need to be able to, there's a lot of cards that you want to play, but they're just not good enough, so you got to be able to take them out of your deck. If they don't work, just switch them out, use other cards. So now we're in a pretty good position. Opponent's leaving 2 mana untapped, decides to draw 2. He's probably not getting the cards he needs right away. Leaves 1 open, but there's not really anything you can do with 1 green right now. So we're in a pretty good position. Next time we can bring on Quest and Beast with haste, put the +1 of Garruk. Quest and Beast becomes a 7/7, and we can do more shenanigans. And that's another thing about these Temple Mysteries. It's so great because it's a land, gives us both green and blue, but it allows us to scry, which is so great, especially in these decks that don't give us much scry other than Kazmina. Questy Beast goes in for 7. Opponent down to 11. We're in a pretty good position, but these Pest decks, when the combos go off, are very dangerous. So we know we gotta make sure we get the right cards we need. Bind of the Olgas comes on. Garruk goes, unfortunately, 2 turns away from the ultimate. It is what it is. Kazandu comes on. And again, this is where you're going to see the geese being so useful. Now we can just create more tokens. We create tokens, next turn we can use it to gain life, we can use it to ramp on to Vorinclex if we get that. Just versatility, a lot of versatility. And this is basically the theme of this Simic deck. Versatility, versatility, versatility. Opponent brings on Demigoth Woe Eater, which is another great card, another great uncommon, which reads, when you sacrifice it, the opponent loses 2 lives, they discard a card, and you draw a card. So there's so much value for a 4 mana drop. We get a Love Struck now, so we can play that as a creature. I believe we made a mistake there. We wanted to play Kazandu Mammoth out as a as a creature as well, but all is good. We decide to attack now because if he trades with Quest and Beast, that's no problem. Because he dies and without being sacrificed, so he doesn't gain life, doesn't draw a card, and he's down to 2 life now. And next turn, it looks like we should get the victory if he doesn't pull off a serious combo right now. Jumbo. Is he gonna pull it off? Let's see. Valentine. I don't think that'll do it. Opponent's trying to get some blockers on the board. The green side to that card is actually really nice. Could be pretty cool to try out in a future deck. So opponent has some blockers now. He can block each of our creatures with. He can block the token, Kazandu Mammoth, Love Struck Beast. And he's hoping that we don't get a Garruk off the top, because then we could just boost Guilty Goose. We get a Bond's Enclave, which is okay for us because now we can consistently draw a card every turn. Because we always have those 4/4/1 or power 4 more. And we draw Vorinclex, so we know that next turn it's pretty much game over. Because now we have our Trample and Haste. So we attack for 3 knowing what we have in hand. If he blocks with everything, then great. Does he block? Yeah, he blocks. So he gets rid of our token. Next turn, Lovestruck Beast can't attack, but that's no problem because we want to eliminate as much blockers as possible. That way, there's no way, or hopefully no way, that he can block any of Vorinclex's damage. So he gains some life from the Pests. Now we have next turn we can attack with Kazandu Mammoth and Vorinclex. We'll see what he decides to play. Billedross Winterbloom, also a pretty cool card that we can try to make a deck around. He plays a Demon Titan, which is going to be pretty hard to get around, and the blacks. So he's playing a mid-range pesty Strixhaven deck. He's got a lot of mid-range cards. So again, we decide to make some food tokens. Now we get our hand, which is great. We have our engine. We can play Vorinclex as well. Comes in as an 8/8 now because we double counters. Now that Vorinclex is in also, he cannot play the Binding of the Old Gods, because that's just going to be stuck on Saga -1, I think. Or does it come on 1? I'm not sure. But I don't think we decide to attack here. Or do we? Okay, we do attack here, because that forces him to get rid of Blex. And then next turn he only has the Titan left. But now, because we have Elysian Character, we know that we have a good amount of draw. We have our Bonder's Enclave as well, which allows us more draw. So the thing with that, the demon that he has, it's a huge butt, 11/10, but every time he blocks, he needs to, blocks or attacks, he needs to sacrifice a creature. And if he has nothing to sacrifice, he needs to sacrifice himself. So it's good if you have a lot of pests on the board, but if you don't, it could be a problem. So we played our plant. We see if we grant. Yes, beautiful. That's exactly what we needed. Now, Professor, we can go. Absolutely, we go for the introduction to Annihilation, because that we can exile target permanent. That's basically the only thing that's causing problems to us. Yes, he draws a card, but realistically, he can draw anything in the deck, and that demon is his best case scenario right now. So if we get rid of that, he can draw whatever he wants. It shouldn't be a problem for us. And look how quick he got up to 20 life. The life gain with these decks, is just incredible. It really is. So there goes that card. Now we have a couple of attackers, but it really depends on what he does now. We have some draw cards. He has Dina, more life gain for him. Dina's not a great card. You play Dina, you play what's called the black card that allows you to, whenever you gain life, each opponent loses life. Another great card. So he's sacrificed a permanent, and he can bring anything back from the graveyard. So that was a really good draw for him. He could potentially bring the demon back. We decide to get rid of a goose. And I believe here he might make a mistake. He brings back a card that was not necessarily the card to bring back. In this situation, I believe he had to bring back the demon. And I thought he might even bring Witherbloom back. But he brings in Binding of the Old Gods, which, yeah, okay, destroys one of our creatures, but after that, there's not much it can do. So we decide to draw. We get Tanazir, and then that's pretty much all she wrote. Tanazir can come on. We decide to draw again. Now that we have Decisive Denial, also we can counter. But the chances that we counter now later in the game is going to be it's going to be low because he has so much mana. So you always have to keep that in hand in your head, because it's counter if the opponent doesn't pay 3 mana. But if they have the 3 mana, then you can't really use it as a counter spell. So now we're in a really nice position. Opponent doesn't have much he can do. Decides to draw. Doesn't have much in his hand. Probably has another land. Blood Researcher. We decide to get rid of Dina. We do not want to let them have any kind of combo in their hand. And next time we could just start attacking with 3/3 and a 5/5. And the opponent decides to scoop. So that was the deck. As you can see, it's a lot of fun to play with. Has a lot of versatility because of the decisive denials. It's not only you can fight target creature, but you can counter target non-creature spell if you don't have, if the opponent is not playing a creature deck or whatever the case may be. Henge Engine, as always. Vorinclex helps. Quandrix, that last game we didn't see it, but that's one of the reasons he scooped, because not only do we had like Elysian Carted and Gilded Goose out, but next turn they would have been all 4/4s. He had 2 counters on him, would have attacked for a ton. So he just helps a lot. Gnar Professor, MVP, just every time it comes on, just grabs another card. We can exile target permanent if we need. We can destroy target artifact enchantment. Find the card in our library, get into our hand, and fractal summon in just for more fun if we need. But yeah, no, super fun deck to play with. Land wise, it was really good. I don't have any islands in there, which helps a lot, because if you just put an island out, we don't have any cards that just require island. And because this is a double, I think it's pretty useful just to have those, our island, our blue mana base in double land cards, which again just allows for versatility. You don't want to be stuck with a blue land card that you're never going to use because you didn't draw your 6 blue cards that you have in your deck. So yeah, no, overall it was just, the Abundance Enclave helps a lot with the card draw as well. Gain some life here. If you have more Temple of Temple of Mystery, I would add it instead of the Quandrix Campus. I don't think we've used this once. It's just too expensive, and we have Abundance Enclave, which does more for us. And yeah, no, really cool deck. Give it a try, and I'll catch you guys next time for, I would say maybe, we'll see. Catch you guys next time.